Idiot. I don't have any towels. Oh well. This is what I thought. Oh, I didn't fix the guest request there. That's fine. That's gonna have to hold for now. Oh boy. We're really learning some things again today. Oh, come on. Open. Does this have... No, I'm not seeing any signs of a seal. Boy, making a mess though, that's for dang sure. Come on. Open, stupid thing. Just trying to open this back I gotta mix in. It's not being friendly about it right now. Are you sure that's gonna work? I'm trying out a new formula, because I've been doing just straight acrylic latex silicone the last couple times that I've worked on my projects, and we're adding in spackle, because stuff hasn't been holding together the way I want, which is annoying, but go figure, right? Okay, this is not a happy mouse. In fact, it is a very annoying mouse. Let's get to chat. Dude, your voice has gotten so... Actually, I'm putting some effort in. I have, to a degree, while I'm living with my parents, I have, to a degree, detransitioned a bit for safety. So it's actually taking some effort for my voice. But hey, good to see you again. Do you know what Decoden is, Talon? That sucks. It does suck. That does suck. It's where we're at in life right now. So, if you don't know what Decoden is. Alright. Oh, it's all out of reach. Let me see if I can reach the phone case that I actually commissioned from another creator while I was getting supplies to actually start myself. Because it's about the only thing I have in reach. I don't have my own stuff in reach, and my setup here is so tiny and cramped that there is no way to easily get to the stuff I've actually done. Actually, no. The world can see the struggle. For those who are watching over on Twitch, I do have Twitch for those of you over on TikTok right now. I am on both right now. Ugh. Tiny, tiny space. Alright. So, what I have in my room with me right now, that I have access to any degree without a huge fight, we have a badge holder that I made. Super cute. And then we also have... Here, let's... God, there's so much space. And we have this phone case. That camera is not very... That's not that dark. Why is that looking so dark there? Ooh. That is looking super dark on both. Hold on. We're gonna enhance this one. Filters. Sunny. Vitality. Okay, I think Vlog's gonna get the closest over on TikTok. I hate that I need to use... Is it bright? Bright. Bright's got about the right temperature here. They're pretty and cute. Yes, Decoden is very, very cute stuff, and that's what I'm getting into. I'm actually slowly working on having my own business. I've about got my website set up properly. And then I've got to actually pay for the hosting and everything. I need to remember my camera's here. I'm so used to my camera being on the other side, but setup-wise, this is a very different setup than I've ever done. I am on one monitor for Twitch. I'm used to 3. I am, life is wild for me right now. Anyways, so yeah, that's a few of those. Let me see if I can fix... Actually, let's just try within Twitch first. We're going to a very... We do not have any of our things showing here, things. Filters. Ooh, yeah, we have no filters going. What do we want to do? Is it color correction? Because we are very, very, very dark. Take the contrast down a bit, I think. No. Brightness? Nope. Saturation? Is it really that... No, it's the light. It really is that dark. Let's turn the light up. I think that's as bright as we're gonna get there. Color correction is not gonna do a damn thing. Alright. Now we've got all this stuff back there. So, I'm not sure how else we're gonna get all the stuff that shows really how awesome this case is. So this is actually the first, like, bigger project I've done far as Decoden. I'm not sure if I'm gonna sell this one, because not that it fits my phone, but a lot of the... I'm not sure how well the silicone for this one holds compared to what I'm mixing up. So I'm still working on my formula, because I'm not buying my whip, I'm making my whip. Whip is what you call the stuff on the background, and all these icing pieces here. That's all whip. So, I'm gonna set these aside. And right now we're working on actually making the whip. So we've got, this is the color that I used last week, which is, I am not afraid to share my formulas, which is just straight up Alex Plus. Okay. All purpose. So Alex is short for all this crap here, and it's plus. So we've got this, and food coloring. Not just coloring gel. Now I've seen a lot of the blogs say that you don't do food coloring because it seizes, but most people are working with silicone heavy, like just silicone, and I am not working with straight silicone. I've got acrylic and stuff, and acrylic mixes with water base. So we've got that. Wilton icing colors, what I'm using for my dyes for now, because I'm working out what will work. And so far this has worked. I don't have any seizing on the case. I don't have any seizing on the badge holder. So we're working on doing some other stuff. So we're going to be taking this silicone here. We're going to be adding some spackling. We're keeping things easy by keeping it... Yes, it is. Which is why we're going with this spackling. I think by keeping it within the same brand, it's going to go a little bit easier. This might make my stuff dry faster. It's going to make my my whip harder when it dries. So if we do this right, it's going to be really, really great. The issue is doing it and actually being able to still use the product. So we're going to add a bit of this in. We're going to mix it. And then we're going to get to decorating a case. We're going to try for one of the designs I had done last week, which was over on TikTok. I had a few issues with those designs. I did 2 Baroque style cases. Hi, Panda. I did a couple Baroque style cases, and because I used too small of an icing tip, I had a lot of gaps in between my rows of icing, and I didn't like it, so I didn't give it time to cure all the way before I removed it. So we're gonna redo it, but it was really, really cute. I have found some lion's head door knockers, some small ones that I was using as a phone ring. Ooh, that looks like a lot of spackle for that. Let's try a little bit at a time. So the idea is to get a consistency that is similar to whipped cream or whipped topping. You want the texture to be about on par with that. Now my only thing with the spackle, as I'm adding it in here and that we can see, is of course it's going to lighten it, but because it's gray and not white, it's definitely different. Definitely different. It feels good to get back into art stuff, though, and to have time to stream again. It's been so long since I streamed. This is 2 weeks in a row. But here we are now. And this is gonna be a weekly thing, usually on Saturdays, but I had some chicken things to do today. I've got bantam silkies that I am responsible for. My mom has a few chickens that are older, and we're working on integrating the flocks together, which did not go too well today. Oh, we're not doing painting. We are doing Decoden, and I will show you in a moment here what Decoden is, for those who don't know. Super cute. Hello, phone. You are falling. Streaming is so hard. I've only messed with it a few times. Yeah, I want to get back in the saddle. I have had a good 6 months off since I moved to my parents from Oklahoma because life fell apart. You stay there. You do not fall. You do not fall. Yes, bird problems. It happens. It happens. But good. But good. It's progress. It's progress. Largely when we let the big girls out, because we let the little girls out first. I should say girls and boys. When we got our silkies, the problem with silkies is you cannot sex them at like 3 days old. There's no way to tell. We ended up with 2 roosters in my... So literally half of my silkies are male. So we have Donald, who was Daisy, and then Violet, who is now Victoria, and very, very appropriate. I mean, not only am I transgender, but most of my children have come out as transgender in some way or another, and now my birds. My birds, too. I don't know what to say. Yeah, it's it's special. It's special. So, we're gonna test this out real fast, see how well it works. I'm gonna use the bag that I had previously, because I don't see the point in using a different bag. So it's gonna change the mixture a little bit, the ratio a little bit, because there's still little bits of the stuff in it still. It's gonna come off screen though because I need control, and I do not have control reaching around my phone and everything else to get to this. Oh, I wish this was a bigger hole. I really wish this was a bigger hole. Well, you're gonna have to scrape the hell out of this to get it down. I don't have any of my scrapers with me to scrape it down. We'll use the lid. Most of it should be like crusted in place. No, I properly sealed up my piping bag, so none of it crusted actually. None of it crusted. Which is good, because that means it's reusable. It means I have a solid storage solution for any product I don't use. Which is gonna save me money, because it's not like this is cheap. It is what he said. I am he. You can't get much more. Go ahead and make whole jokes, Panda. Oh, he's home early. If I disappear suddenly, it's because, though I am adult, I am not going to subject the world to my stepfather if he decides to start drinking. In case I just up and dip. We're not at that point right now, though. Alright. We are gonna close up the spackling. Which means I'm not using the spackling to spread. Is that lid on? That is not on. It's life. It's life. It's one of many reasons why I am taking a new direction in my life and taking the risk of starting a business and everything. It's one of the reasons why I work at the company I currently work at. And I will use every benefit I can get from that company as much as that company uses me as an employee, because it is a huge corporation. But dang it, Bezos is paying for my gym membership without me going to a gym. My work is my gym. And he's gonna pay for my schooling. Yep. I figure if capitalism's gonna use me, I'm gonna use it. Alright. Nope, I am getting up and finding something to use for the thing. I need a scrape thingy. Yeah. I know last week I used my AAA card. Just fine, except I'd be careful about identifying information, and I don't want to mess with that. We are looking at something else. So that is maybe. No, that has a barcode. There we go. Found it! Library card. Library card is great for this. We are gonna allow that comment. Yes. Alright. Sorry. Let's push the crud down. Now that we got just be mindful of what sides we use there. I can't believe Twitch's moderator flagged Bish. Bish! It's ridiculous. I'm finding that for TikTok, I might have needed to have been a little bit more put together. Why does that come up like that up there? I think I know what it is. I'm not fixing it right now, but I think there are settings I need to fix within Stream Elements. So we are gonna... So this is a small tip. This is not what I would typically use for doing a phone case. We will be doing a phone case today. But it is good for badge holders, and it is good for testing. We're going to use the foam that I use to hold things like, why aren't you? You screw on. Thank you. Let's see. How do we like... Okay, so that is a good... Let's check the rest of the consistency, because that's a smooth tip, but I want to use a textured tip. They're a bit of a damn pain. Which bit is a bit of a dang pain? What did I miss? I know I said something and I completely forgot what the hell I said. Go figure. Go figure. I've also got some other fun tips I want to play with. Oh, the Twitch mods, yes. The auto mod stuff on chat, yeah. Well, I mean, they're not the only ones. Same with the TikTok ones, which I haven't really played with yet. I do need to get in there and start playing with those settings at some point. I will also eventually need moderators on my channel there. I know last week when I went live, I had a couple trolls come in and I had a few viewers, and one of them is a newer acquaintance and doesn't know my background with streaming as well. But, like, I can handle a few trolls. We've seen it. We've seen me handle a horde of trolls come through a few times. Why is this? You know, I should have done that line a little bit further over on that. So we're gonna... That is... That texture's pretty good. If I need more, we'll play with that later. It is, actually. It is. And that is what we are going for. So we're gonna switch this tip out for a bigger one. We're gonna pray that I have enough whip in this bag to do the phone case. Because I suspect we do not. I know last week we cut it really, really close on one of the cases I did. Actually, you know what? But I don't want to mix in the bag. We've been there, done that. And I don't feel like piping it out and scraping again. Alright, we're gonna use as much as I can. We'll do, you know what? We'll do a partial case. We'll do a partial just to be sure. That's how we'll handle this. And actually that works because if I want to play with something different, where did that go? Where did I put that? I do have another thing. Well, no, I don't want milk with that. We're going for... Alright. We need a vote on whether or not I am doing a character case or a Baroque case. With Baroque, we will be using one of my lion heads as a ring phone holder. I'm working a cash job as an assistant artist right now, so using new adhesives and problem solving on the fly for art is my job right now. That's cool. This is a brand new hobby that we're, rather than just letting it be a hobby, we are gonna monetize. So we either do this, and with all the little things I do, and we're gonna do a vertical layout, or we do a character one. I don't have a lot of characters right now. I'm still waiting for a lot of my charms to come in, and it's gonna be over a few weeks because I've been ordering the last couple of weeks. I feel like Pochico's too big. Yeah, this guy's too big for the layout that we're doing. Let's see. We have a cute little bat. I have a cute bear. I feel like Pom-Pom's too small. Well, no, that's about the same size as Cinnamon Roll. These are the guys we have right now. So do you fancy goth stuff and super cute stuff too? Yes! We've got a couple Sailor Moon pieces. We might do another Sailor Moon theme, because I do have enough stuff to do a really cute layout for Sailor Moon between the pieces I have, where I don't have a lot with the rest. The rest would be waiting on more charms to come in still. Yeah, I think we'll go with Sailor Moon. Which works well with a lot of the other stuff I have, as far as charms, because I have room to fill in and really make this work. I'm not doing the milk. Let's see, nature stuff. We got a couple stars. Did I get a lavender star in that set? No, and I'm not about to use my lavender stars. Because my one lavender star just does not match up. I love both. Being all soft and pink is fun, but my soul is very much goth. Yeah. Yep. It's a mood, right? I bet we get our charms from the same page. Oh, I have those identical ones. If the page you're talking about is Charms ASMR or Charms Go, yes. In fact, I'm actually one of the mods over there. But I want to stream. So I am streaming. I want to create. Welcome in, by the way. Lacey Chantel. I think so. I think I've seen your profile pic. Actually, now that you say something. Not the brass roses. I do want some roses on this. I was looking for my Sailor Moon bows. I know I ordered... Well, no, that is a bow there. I'm goofy. Let's see. I'm gonna have to remove the backs on these, but... I think that's about perfect there. Any other bits? If I had a bouquet of the roses, I'd just do that. I do not have a bouquet of the roses at this time. Alright, set that aside. I wish I had some moons too. Finding moons has been difficult. Do we like any of these hearts? We have one purple heart. Nail swag. Yes. Yep. That would in fact be the place. Yeah, I don't have any moons. I wish I did. Okay, she is a foodie person. We could throw some food in here with her. I have some cute food charms too. I almost wish we had meatballs. So she could be a proper meatball head. Yeah. Dang it's right, Panda. Dang it's right. See, I don't want to do the purple gummy bears. We're not using my milks. Maybe if I had a purple one. I'm not sure how much space we have here to do much. To do much more. I really wish I had tweezers. I'm gonna get so messy because I do not have tweezers. Do we have room for a donut? Maybe all the way up in the corner. You could have a moon shape made out of food. Because I'm going diagonal and I only have so much space, I don't see that really working. We're playing it to the safer side today. So we've got a lot of repeating pieces. Your phone did a thing. What did your phone do? Here we go. I think that's it for now. I wish I'd had more. Not really. Maybe a gummy bear. That feels off balance right there. Right there, maybe. I think right there. I think we like that. Now the trick, because I do not have another phone to take a picture with, is going to be remembering this. So I think I need to actually just lay it aside in the same layout that I'm going to be using. Froze the stream but not the audio, but it's good now? Okay. So, we'll keep it as close as possible. I still need to grab my tweezers and snip the backs on these roses. Where'd my tweezers go? One moment. Let's go get those. I thought my tweezers were in here. Can I move them? There they are. Snippy snippies. So I'm still working out my organization in my tiny, tiny space here. Whew, that popped off. So this was originally on one of my Baroque cases, but like I said, I was not happy with how those turned out. Alright. We got most of the back stuff off of this one, which I think went right about there. Misagi. Snipping nibs to prep charms for gluing is a common task for me in my art job. So most of the charms that I have coming in don't have backs on them, which is great. But currently, when it comes to my roses, they do have backs because I've got them at large chain store for the button section. Which, I mean, they work. There is a limit far as color range, which is frustrating, but sometimes what do you do, right? Just gotta live with it. I'm gonna move this heart higher up, actually. And then I've got some glitter to throw in and some bubbles and pearls to work with. So this is gonna be neat. All right. We're nice and close now. Not a lot of choices there. Alright, so... It's a little messy, but we'll work with it. I think it still works out, though. We are doing a little bit of a curve thing here. That's concerning. Yeah, sourcing charm pieces is tough. My boss shares her struggles while we work, and it sounds like hard work. So I've found a couple good places actually through TikTok that I order charms from. There's another place that I want to test out purchasing charms from with my next run, which I actually found through this app called Shop. There's a place called Wing Charms. You can find a lot of good ones on Etsy. The struggle I've had for a while is finding Squirtle. I want a bunch of Squirtle ones because I want to do a custom license plate holder for my car, who is named Squirtle. My buddy Panda knows all about Squirtle. By the way, the struggles with Squirtle have improved. They are not as bad as they were. I feel like I might still need bigger tips than what I have currently. Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said last time, I got some tourmaline and some cedar and some tourmalated quartz, and we were gonna see if that helped, and once we got the major issues fixed, we have not had any further, and I don't know if it's that stuff or if it's just, hey, you fixed the issues. But we'll go with a bit of column A, bit of column B. That's what I think. I just realized that I have been crowding the hell out of my rosettes here. Looks cool though. Really like the texture there. I wish there was a way to fix the lighting. Yeah, I'm happy it's working too. It's taken a lot of stress off. So we might spread out the charms a bit more. I didn't go quite as diagonal as I wanted. That's gonna take some practice. And having a lined sheet will help a lot there. Because that helps with spacing. Think this will work. There's still quite a few gaps. Is this tip not as big as I thought? Where are my tips? It's not the bigger tip. This is the same tip I used last week. So, That's why we were struggling. That's why we were struggling. Because the hole was the smaller hole again. I mean, you can see... We're gonna see if we can use the charms to fill this in to fix it. Right? That's what they're for. But I don't want to cover too much. That's, I actually spoke to my mom, and it was one of the things she really liked the first time I showed her was being able to see some of the whip behind it. And she had a good point. We don't want to completely cover up the whip. Oh shit. See if I can pick this up without... God, this is nerve-wracking. Nope. Well. Well, it's there now, and that's the direction it's going. That's what it's... This is why I need the tweezers. Bruh. Yeah. What'll you do? Right? What are you gonna do? Good deal. So we're changing stuff up a bit, long as the stuff just kind of fits, right? I think we'll put this rose here. We'll throw a star there. I like that idea of putting the gummy bear right there. Life be lifin'. And sometimes that means, things don't quite work the way you want them, right? That's okay. We're gonna take the Bob Ross approach and, happy little accidents, we're gonna run with it. We do not have room for that star up there. Let's do... that one there. This one's actually working out pretty well otherwise. It's best we can do for ice cream. We know Usagi likes her ice cream. She'll have to live with the fact that all we've really got for her are popsicles. Alright, so we've got her bow. Alright. Pearls without the tweezers is gonna be something else. I think I'd rather go with the AB beads though. Yeah, we're going with the AB beads. Come on. Open, 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 open. Please don't tear. Please don't tear. Okay. Ooh, that is so sticky. some different sizes going in here. There we go. Use scissors before the back explodes up. Oh, yeah. No, I've got it. I've got it. We did it. Let's find a small one for up here. You're gonna kind of create, ooh. Where's medium? Large, small, medium. So this is the small here. There we go. Really wish this. May says hi to you. Ezra! Hi! Hi, May! We're doing something different here. What else could I put in here? I wish I had... I need more, like, tiny things. I don't have as many as I would like to have. What you drop? Right on top of that. Alright. That's cool. That's cool. So how is everyone? I have completely skipped over that this entire time I've been live. How is everyone? What's everyone else up to? Alright, yes. Oh god, I just noticed I got a bunch of... Okay, sticky tops are great and all until all your beads get stuck to said sticky top. Like, yeah, I don't have to worry about these running off when I'm not using it because I just close it up. And for the first several times, it's going to close up really, really well, and then the stickiness is going to be gone, and it's going to look gross and disgusting, and we'll deal. I think that's enough for those. I do want some actual pearls, I think, but first we're going to get a few more AB beads going. Oh shit, I did not put the other beads away first. What was I thinking? I closed the bag without putting them away. Tiny space organization. I've got to work this out. So one of the things is, yes, I do need actual storage containers. Right now everything goes in little pouches and bags. Now you just kind of throw it all together on the side. It's the best I can do. What'll you do? Oh shit. Got this put up. I'm not sure the shell really fits. Let's find some other shapes. I'm just gonna... So we got a bunch of cute shapes. I know they're really hard to see there. But we're gonna throw, I think we're gonna throw a couple of these little bows on. Let's see, let's do... We only have space for one or two, I think. But look how much brighter the AB is on that. That one there, and this one here. Not the butterflies. I love the butterflies, but that's not necessarily on theme. Here's a teeny tiny bow. We're gonna squeeze you right up here. Tiny beads. So these aren't beads. These are actually nail charms and cabochons. Now, I haven't done nails in a long time. I have a hard time, first of all, where I work, that they would not work at all. But look. I could see it for people who have jobs where they're able to have artificial nails and stuff. But it would not work for me working in a warehouse. These are not warehouse-friendly things, which is fine. It's fine. I mean, one of the goals is to work our way out of the warehouse job anyways, right? Where did I put the glitter? Where did the glitter go? There it is. It's on the desk. All right. Of course I want glitter. This is pretty cute. I'm actually really happy with this. Alright, room is infected. There will forever be glitter in this place now. Oh boy. So much glitter. Holy fuck, this brush holds a lot of glitter. So when this dries, I will probably spend... Oh, fuck! I am gonna spend 4 years cleaning up this glitter now. Well, there we are. That's that. This brush, it's a Dollar Tree brush. It was a, I believe it was a contour brush or something. I will be getting a vacuum in here and seeing how much exactly I can clean up, but I think some of it has actually landed inside my dresser, which means it is on my clothes, meaning it is gonna get all over the workplace. RIP Portland metro area and beyond, people who order stuff from AMZL. that comes out of the facility I work in because, well, shit, I'm sorry. Oh. Alright, we are going to flip this over. We are going to very, 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 very gently try and tap some of this glitter off. We're going to see how much of this we can salvage. And I'm also going to get a much better look at just how much glitter's going on there. I need to work on my light source. I've got ceiling light there. I feel like this lamp here really drowns stuff out, though. Alright, so here we are. So once it has dried, I will be able to brush the rest of that off. I actually really like this diagonal layout. Another thing, if you're enjoying this, yes, it is very pretty. If you're enjoying this, I would appreciate it if you could share this, or better yet, share my TikTok live, because one of the things I want to do is I want to be able to go live on TikTok from desktop, which I can't do right now. They require 3,000 followers. I'm halfway there. I don't generally do the, hey, help me grow, but I am trying to start a business, and I need my friends' help as much as possible. I'm so happy with that, though. So, we're gonna give this its time to cure, and we're gonna find out just how long that is with the spackling added in. So the Alex Plus takes about 7 to 10 days to cure fully, which is a long time. We're gonna see how much adding that spackling in speeds it up, and if I am not ultimately happy with the Alex Plus, we're gonna switch back to regular GE Silicone 2 and see how well that works with, of course, with the spackling mixed in. Now, when I do the translucent pieces, that I am not going to be able to mix the spackling in because that ruins the translucent. But there is a specific way to use the translucent stuff. You don't use it on its own by and large, unless you are going to do some extra prep work that I have not been doing. So, we're going to put this aside. It's being destroyed by ads. It's Twitch. I could change that setting. I might change that setting, seeing as Twitch may not necessarily be my main source of where I want things going. It's a good place to get better lighting and a better view for now, because I think in a lot of regards, I want that kind of algorithm that TikTok has on a platform similar to Twitch far as the format for how things do. Yeah. Again, squeezing every penny I can out of AMZL. Might as well. I have accepted the fact that our life is a corporate hellhole. It's a capitalist hellhole. I'm gonna do what I can to make it work for me. So, we'll call that one done. We're gonna move on to another case. I'm gonna go set this in my little drying area. Oh god. I will say one thing. My current setup forces me to do stretches that I am not otherwise doing. Because they're stretches you usually get when you are in physically intimate relationships, and I am not in any of those currently, so so here we go. these are good stretches that I need, that I don't do otherwise. Just getting in and out of my chair. Oh, jeez. Oh, those are so pretty next to each other. Ouchies. No, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. I need these stretches. I need these workouts. I really should be making time for them more without doing all this. I don't quite have enough stuff to do the hand mirrors yet. Let me show you guys some of the other stuff I plan on doing. Let me get some of my other supplies. I have slowly worked on getting a website up and going. Panda, I have a couple charms that might interest you in the future, but I'm not quite there on supplies. I don't think quite yet. If you're ever interested in any of my stuff, to support. So we're gonna go through some other stuff that I have. I am slowly working up my stock of hand mirrors. We're gonna be decorating these at some point, but I don't think I have quite enough to work on them. I've got Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra cases. I've got a handful of those. So I've got one down that's decorated the way I want. I've got 3. I've got 4 more that I can decorate. My stock's pretty low right now. iPhone, similar. I've got 1 down. You have a Galaxy S23? Is it S23, S23 Plus, or S23 Ultra? Because the shapes and the sizes are a bit different. As far as iPhone, I've got iPhone 13 Pro Max. I don't think it's the Ultra. I do plan on expanding what I have available to work with. I've got some really cute claw clips. You think it's the regular? If you go into about your phone, there's something somewhere that tells you exactly what your model is that I would have a hard time looking at right now. So, this is what the style of claw clips I've got. So these are actually really, really friendly to Decoden, unlike the first claw clip I did for my child. So we'll have claw clips. I've got the badge holders. I've got 1 pop socket. Exactly 1 pop socket. And we'll work our way towards doing other things, but this is what I was able to afford to start. As far as charms, though, Panda's still here. Actually, I think, Talon, you were an outer Sailor Scout person, right? If I remember correctly. I think you were a Saturn, right? Yeah, okay. So, I have... Now, these take a bit more work for me to get ready because these were not bought as flat-backed either. These were bought... They are straight-up croc gibbets, but do you know that people make croc gibbets and you can actually take those pieces off as well? Takes a bit of work. Takes some tugging. But look at that guy. It's just a little guy. And removing the backs. So You've never seen that Outer Sailor Scouts. Okay, so the first phone case I made that I showed you was 2 of the Outer Scouts. That is Sailor Uranus and Sailor Neptune. And there's also Pluto and Saturn. I have Pluto and Saturn as well. You get into season 3, and you get into the Sailor Starlights, which are transgender. We love us our transgender representation, and we love the fact that this anime from the mid to early 90s actually had that. Like, it's great. So, you can remove Gibbets packs because they're literally just, yes, and lesbians. So you had lesbians before season 3, but yes, Uranus and Neptune are the lesbian couple that the Western version did a horrible job of trying to convince people were just cousins. Nobody bought it. They only did that in the Western version. That's not how they were originally written, but that's what they had to be done with censorship at the time to be on TV here. It's terrible. And like, it was so obvious anyways that they were not cousins. Not in any stretch. Yes. So, we are gonna get this back off. Like I said, it takes a little bit of work, but it can be done. We're gonna do a little bit of twist here. And there you go. So then we have a charm that is a former Gibbets. I actually have a pack of Gibbet packs that I could attach to other things. Like, if I really wanted to, I could attach a Gibbets back to this and make this a croc charm, but I am not into making croc charms. I love the Decoden stuff. And I think we are gonna get into doing another case. I don't want to do another purple though. I've done a lot of purple already. I think we're gonna go into doing... We're gonna use this guy. Now, where did my superhero bag go? Right there. So yeah, I've got Deadpool. We've got Groot. And Batman. And all the extra work that comes... Actually, Batman came in without his back. Look at that. Of which I have more of those coming in. I've got... The range of charms I have coming in over the next couple weeks is great. I don't know where the hell I'm gonna put them all. Let's see. You know what? We're not even gonna go through... Oh. That one I did last week. Removing the back. Because I spent a little bit of time removing backs just to see how much work it takes. And a little bit more work than I would like. But it's not impossible. You don't need anything fancy to do it. So... So, let's see if we can do a layout for the next phone, which I think I want to make another Samsung. Here's the other Samsung case. No, this is an iPhone. Did I have another? Yeah, one of them was an iPhone last week. We'll do an iPhone. I want this further in because I discovered when I removed it, if you use a clipper that doesn't have the needle nose bit, cutting backings off is a lot easier and faster. Yeah, I don't have one right now. I do plan on getting one. Let's do a brass key. So this is gonna be... I don't do Baroque necessarily. I think Victorian is more accurate. Where are my Where are my cameo caps? I'm just not sure what I want to mix in along with design-wise. Last week I played around with a few of my small brass roses, which they're adorable, absolutely adorable, but I don't think they quite worked the way I wanted. Flowers. We can actually let the I like doing roses for the Victorian design. We could let these kind of decide the colors that I use. I've got a peach, got a teal, I've got ivory, which means that literally any color back. We could go a little bit darker and use my black ones. I could play around with making some black whip. I have not done that yet, but I do have the stuff to do so. Yeah, that's that. Next bit, what else can we do there? Not feeling the clear hearts. If we go with the peach, I think, as far as something unexpected, we like the unexpected, right? We love the unexpected. As far as the unexpected, we could. We could do a bear. Let's really play around with doing different here. I just knocked the fuck out of my phone. Sorry, folks over there. This is, you know, I think we have something here. I think we have something here. I thought that was Gumby for a second. Nah. Just a really awesome black bear. Do I have any... No, no more of that. Let's do... I think spacing-wise, this is really good. What do we think? I really like this. I really like this. I think this is gonna be one of my... Which means I've got to figure out where to regularly source all these pieces. Hi, Diane. Yeah, this is different. And I'm a big fan of different. I think we are gonna go for... I think we're gonna go for it with the actually no, I think peach for this. So I need to actually go clear out my mixing bowl real fast with my spatula, because this purple will definitely ruin it. Ooh, the way this is already cleaning up, because it has partially dried in my in my mixing bowl is actually a really, really good sign. So I think going forward, I need to figure out what colors I'm going to want. Get those mixed ahead of time. We will be swapping out to the proper tip. But yeah, I've never seen the outer sailors in anime, but I'm aware of them, and my wife got us each a little macaron keychain charms that are for the gay sailors ladies. Yay! See, I really love the ones that I sourced because they're sitting on ice cream. I wish I could find the Inner Scouts sitting on ice cream, but I can't. I can't seem to find them anywhere. And I have not seen any charms, period, of the Sailor Starlights, which is heartbreaking but not surprising. Who knows, maybe at some point I figure out how to make my own molds. Maybe. So, I am gonna go wash this crap. And we are gonna mix up a new batch. Need to before I do that. Oh! Before I do that, I need to store this because there is enough to use for smaller projects of this one left. Storage of this is really simple, really simple. There's a few different ways, but the way I like is we remove the tip. Actually, that doesn't work because I've got an adapter. So there's two ways. With this one, we're going to go with this. This is going to put the adapter in the bag. We're going to take this bag, we're going to put it inside another piping bag. And we're going to put it all the way in. Make sure there's as little air as possible around that tip. Yes, cream glue. We're doing cream glue. And I'm actually about to make another. Isn't that the cupboard thing from the house we grew up thing? No. Hi! You have not seen my recent thing that I've gotten into. What, the cream glue? Why are you afraid to use it? Looks just like it? No. No, this is a... maybe it is. It's... okay. Heather, you've seen where I keep... you read it takes 3 days to dry. It depends on the mix you use, so I'm using... for my mix, I'm using Alex Plus, and I'm mixing it in DAP's Fast Dry Premium spackling. So we're going to see just how fast that dries, but right now I'm going to go mix a new batch so that we can do this case. You gotta go. Love you too, Heather. Thank you for stopping in. Alright, so this is closed up as good as we can. Ideally, you would want a clip or something to close this off. I do not have that. I wrap it all the way. And I pray that it stays closed enough. I also put it inside another bag. So this is the layout we're going with. I am going to go run and mix up some more. And then yes, big tip. Big tip. Mother trucker. Table's in the way of the door. I would bother with going onto a break screen or something. This should only take a moment. All right. And we are back. I'm gonna have to dip, but it was great talking to you and hanging while you streams, guys. Stay safe, my trans brother. Thank you for coming by and spending your time with me. Hope to see you around again soon. Like I said, this is gonna be a weekly thing. Let's get this stuff rolling properly. Where did I put? Caulking gun. Here. Light. We're gonna find out just how gunked up this got. All right. And just to be sure enough that we have enough of the whip, we're probably going to be using up the last of this particular tube. Come on, squeeze it all out. Is that all of it? Is that all it got out? I think that's the last of that tube there. It's not doing any more for me. Come on. Pull that back. Oh yeah. Yep, we got every last bit out of that tube. All right. It's down there for now. And we're gonna go ahead and get the spackling open. I'm gonna throw some spackling in. I've still got to work out the actual measurements, but we're gonna use a roughly 1-to-1 ratio here. We'll see how much I like this one compared to what I did earlier. So let's get these well blended before I get the color in. Once I've got my website up and running, which means, you know, I've registered my business, because I haven't done that either. Like I said, we are still in early phases here. I'm getting my my stock up into order. I'm figuring out what exactly works for me as far as formulas and style. What is gonna be my style? I've got a few people who have seen the stuff that I've done so far, and they would like me to do some stuff. Like my managers has basically already said, yes, I am ordering a phone case. In fact, he's doing an upgrade. He's gonna go out and buy an OtterBox for me to decorate, because I'm like, dude, those are expensive. I understand the want for the stability with it, but that is not something I can say, hey, I can afford to do this right now as part of my base model. But if the person wants to pay for the OtterBox and have that decorated, that's fine. I really like this. Look at the... So this is just stirring. I like this. I think I like the 1-to-1 ratio. We're gonna get some color in a moment. We were doing peach. Actually, yeah, no, we'll stick with the peach idea. And then I'm gonna snip off those backs. It looks like icing. It's supposed to look like icing. That is exactly what it's supposed to do. And this, it is not blood. It's icing color. But for me, this fake icing color. Oh, come on. I just busted another plastic spoon. I'm gonna have to get more of these. Oh, I hope I did not do too much of this. That is a lot of... That's a lot of dye. Oops. Whoopsies. Let's see if this comes out right. I think we may end up with more of an orange. I need to get the lid on that spackling since it's fast drying stuff. We don't want it drying so fast that we can't use it. Again, next week. We might be all right with the peach here. We might be all right. It might not be as dark as I thought it was. So I don't want to go too dark. I would take a break, but I'm good. Y'all who are used to coming to my lives over on Twitch, though, can go ahead and yell at me for not having water handy. Next time I'll remember. But I swear I drink so much water now that one day is not gonna be a major issue. And part of that, yes, is working warehouse job. All right. Yes, this is it's actually a good color. This is spot on for what I was going on. Last time I made my peach, I wasn't happy with it, and I added in a bit of pink, and it was more of a pinky peach, but this is a peachy peach. Nice, soft, peachy peach. You were gonna use the bits for water? Yeah, don't waste them. Don't waste them right now. I will make sure next week that I have water readily available. And I've got a couple other things I gotta straighten out stream-wise that are gonna make things a little bit easier. I spent a good 3 hours today setting up just to figure out what would work with my tiny space here. And now we're there. Now we need to get the next batch put together. All right. Bag. And tips. Did I keep the tips over here? Or was I like, no, that's gonna be enough? I was like, nah, that's gonna be enough. Nope, there they are. So, this is what I was talking about with the, that's on the inside of my other bag. So this is basically an adapter. It goes inside the piping bag. You fill the piping, you put this on, and then you screw it, and that's how it keeps from making a mess everywhere. I'm sure some people know this stuff already, but I sure as hell didn't the first time. The very first time I tried piping, and boy, did I make a mess all over the place because the tip just basically exploded out of the piping bag. And then so did the silicone, and it was just everywhere. It was a disaster. It was sad because it was a really pretty color too. And I lost all of it because I didn't know how to. Let's see. Where did my scissors walk off to? I thought I had those close by. I did not, in fact, have those close by. did, though. Because I was like, yeah, no, I'm gonna need to open something. I'm feeling a really special kind of not smart right this moment. How did I lose an entire pair of scissors? Again. We're gonna see if I can locate them. Because I know I had them out and ready, because I knew I was gonna need them. Terms not used. I bet it's in that pile right there of all my little thingies and doodads and charms and stock of things I'm gonna make. That or my child that's gone with them and I didn't notice earlier. Which is also be par for the course. I doubt we get to making another item today with the time I'm spending looking for things I thought I had. Maybe under the keyboard with me. Maybe. Quite possible. Bags and bags. Yeah, no. Did they fall down the side? No. I have thoroughly lost a pair of scissors. It's not even the first time I've lost these scissors. Like I just found them again today and now I have lost them again. I feel like I'm being punked. Definitely not in that bag. Throw these all in here while I try and work out just where those go. I don't understand. Well, shit, I don't. Tip exploded. I don't think under the bed. not sure how in the world it would get there. I could have swore I had it on my desk here. That's the thing. Granted, this stuff is not at all far from each other. But I'd had everything set up and like, hey, this is here, that is there. I can find these things super fast. Ouch. And now I can't find it for crap. I don't want to use the nail clippers. I am thoroughly confused. We're pulling the chair up. I used them earlier. To help the kiddo with something. I will be... They're upstairs. Just, I'll find something else for now. We have success. I have found a pair of scissors, which will work. And next time I will make sure I have my scissors downstairs. No, I'm just fine, Panda. I just had to find the scissors because I cannot snip the tip off this bag without scissors. So I'm doing a no-no. I'm using my nail shears. They're not even high quality or anything. I'm not too worried about it. They came with like a set of... They came as part of a trimmer kit. So I'm not too worried about it. But finding it was a real bitch. Even finding those. And long as I wash the whip off real soon after making my stuff, I should not have any issues. That's assuming I get any of it where I don't want to get it. I did not grab out a bag. Piping bag. Today's not even open. That one's not even open. I just need a singular bag. Load in the adapter. So I'm going to push this all the way in. go down to where the max fill line is. And now we're gonna load this stuff in. Look at this big dollop. This goes in the bag. Hello. Whew. Whoa. This is a good amount. And that was actually almost all of it out of the container in one scoop too. All right. Where did I put that? There that is. That did not go too terribly far. Right around. Tip so I don't go searching for it. Because I was about to be searching for that. So I can move this aside. I think one thing I need to do in the future is get a smaller applicator brush, so to speak, for the glitzy stuffs. So that was a lot. That was a lot. That was just a little dip. Little dip. We're going to start with a small, very small snip in the tip of this bag, so that as I push the air out, we actually get all the air out. I think the last time that I did this, prior to doing anything to clear the air out, I think that's why I was having some of the issues I was having, because there was no place for the air to escape to. Which is its own issue, right? You're trying to push something out, needs somewhere to go, it's got nowhere to go, it's not gonna get out. That is a good amount. All right. You're gonna snip this right down here. That gives just a little bit of buffer space. A little bit of buffer space. squeeze this all the way as far into the bag as it'll go. The applicator tip, that is. Screw tip. And then we will wrap up the bag. We're gonna see how well I remembered my layout all on my own here. He was stuck. Stuck's a good place to start with this. All right. So here's the case. Which cord is that? That cord. You go behind that, thank you. I think with this one, if we do any extras, it will have to be pearls this time, not the AB beads. ASMR scratch? A little bit, huh? So we are going with a kind of... We're following the similar format as far as everything going diagonally, but we are not doing the diagonal application. We are doing a full apply on this case. Hold on. Gotta troubleshoot the butterfly a bit here, because I did, like I said, I had formerly used it on another case design and things just did not quite work out. So we still have some of the former color stuck along the back. It was poking through the edges here, but that's all fixed. So last time I used this, I think your sleeve or something touched the phone, and I heard it all in my left ear, and I was like, yeah. No, I think it was my cap on the microphone up here. Because I've bumped that a few times with my head. Yeah, because it went up in the phone. The phone's down right here. All right. I can see how well I can do this. My space is a bit more cramped than last week's was. Really, part of it is I need to find another way to hold my phone. Ooh. That's big. That's big. We like that. All right. Camera's gone? I think it might have just been how close I was to it. Okay. We're gonna... Sorry. Gotta adjust this mic a bit. I keep running into it. No, like the whole screen had gone black. Oh! That is odd. Oh, that was an air bubble. Okay. And now to fill in. Just put this out of the way so I can get in here. This is really creamy. No, like the whole screen had gone. Yeah. We're getting here. Slowly. think it may be another case of where I have just enough again. Which says, whoops, for one. Make more. I'll learn eventually. Eventually. Let's get this all scraped all the way down. There. Fingers crossed. Yep, fingers crossed. It's a little bit more like my wave application that I like doing. All right. This tip is not the tip we want to use for doing around the camera. We're going to go to my much smaller tip for that. Rotate. Now, as soon as I get a camera stand that has a longer neck than this one, so I don't have to be nearly as close to the edge of my desk over there as I am currently, we'll be in really good shape. It'll fix all sorts of crowding issues that I'm dealing with right now. But right now we're absolutely crowded. Mother trucker. Yeah, just a bit. Thanks, fingers. Fixed. Fixed. Now I'll so carefully turn it. Very carefully. And I just realized my phone has been slowly falling again. Back to center. All right. Oh, if only I'd had a good pair of pliers to actually make this behave here. All right. Here we go with the want this as straight as possible. Last time it was not straight, nor was it center. And while yes, those are things that I struggle with a lot, we do not want it to be a struggle with that. Mother... Alright, yep. Not rest right there. That's not gonna fall any further. Now we press this in. I don't want that going nowhere. It fucking tickled. Having Skull Candy headphones, these pick up those scratch sounds way too well. Alright. Scritchy hat, let's go. We're gonna move that up here a bit. Hello and welcome to Torrance Craft, an ASMR channel. You gotta be in the right place to hear it though, cause you don't catch it on TikTok yet. Not till I get the following that'll allow me to go use Creator Studio and go live from my PC. Which I can't wait to do that. It's a much better setup for me. There actually is some color difference between the roses and the whip. Not that you can tell here at all. It is not as color matched as it looks. And maybe on other monitors it's not looking as color matched as it looks on mine, but it does look color matched on both the phone and on the PC screen, so maybe it's pretty dang close. Now, do we want to move you here or keep you up here? Keep you up here. I think we officially have a favorite design style to do. This will probably be, if I can regularly source all the charms used right here, I think this will be one of my regular designs on my site, which will be good for people that want to order because it would be a little bit cheaper. These are cool tone. And I don't know if I want to go cool tone or if I'd rather go warm. We're opening them, so we're going cool tone. And I don't think I want glitter on this one. Like, we know I love my glitter, but I don't think this is a case for glitter. There's already so much glitter in that room. Yeah. Kind of what I'm thinking. It's already so much, and I don't think I want any more. So we are gonna very carefully drop these beads. Because they are beads. and I will use a Q-tip to press them in afterwards, but I don't want to risk dropping them to where the holes are upwards. So we are using the one tool I have currently that maybe I could have used earlier. Want another one of these? Yeah, another tiny one somewhere. Well, that one rolled away from me. Said adios, we're out of here. So did that one. At least that one is somewhere where I can still retrieve it. Wow. Wow. Alright. But I get nervous, and with the limited space here, it's hard to have a steady hand. Oh, it does not want to go there. Alright. Q-tip time. Why won't you stick to Q-tip? You won't stick to Q-tip. Desperately need... Alright. Oh. I'm gonna have to track these little things later. We're gonna go for some slightly bigger ones here. Which are a little easier to get with these pliers too. So maybe I'll have an easier time placing them where I want. Or maybe I won't, because I'm coming all sorts of weird angles here. Head! Nope. They're just getting away from me. They're just getting away. They won't just... Oh. No, you son of... I am being defeated by little pearls. Not like this. This is not how I saw me going down. Oh, that was so close. No! That's it. I am finding some actual true users. They're not the elbow tweezers that I want. I have some headed in, but we've got a little bit of a wait before they actually get here. Alright. Do I have tweezers in my nail kit? I don't think so. Oh, I've got needle nose pliers. Those might be easier. Let's see if needle nose pliers work easier for this. See if I've just been doing this the hardest way possible. I may not have the tools I want, but I should have tools that work better than what I've been doing. No! These have a good spring on them. No! Dang it! This is where angles and what I'm working with. No! I had you. Come here. Ha! That was so stupidly hard. Oh, jeez. Yay, we did it! We got it on. Boy, was it a fight, though. So there's another application style for this stuff that I want to try in the future, which is really, really neat. Like, really fucking cool. That makes it look like, I don't know what it's called, but you see it in upholstery sometimes and stuff. It just looks really neat. And it gave me an idea, but I would need more, a couple designer label themed things. Which, yeah, I've got some ideas on that. There we go. And there's that one in. Let's do next size up. And then we've got one more size of these things. And then we will call this done. Now these are a little easier to place. Because they don't want to run as much. They're not so tiny. There we go. They're going much easier with these bigger ones. But no. At least you didn't roll too dang far. I'll get you in a moment. I'm gonna have to figure out how to get a few of the smaller ones over here. I'm not sure how I'm gonna do it. Maybe I just turn the case so I have easier... It's easier to reach the place I'm trying to get to. Like, that makes sense, right? That seems like the logical thing that should have, like, came to mind from the get-go. Can't reach this corner? Well, just bring the corner closer. Durr! I mean, you could use a little spinning tray to make it easier without you having to disconnect. Yeah, I do plan on getting one of those at some point too. I just don't have any right now. But that is in the plans. I think I need a couple more of these big ones. Just a couple more. I think we're about done here, though. We like this. We really like this one. And one more. I want an odd number. I don't want it right in that corner. We couldn't get one in that corner. It's 3D there. Yeah, no, this needs to come over here. Let's go. Let's make sure we get these little guys tamped in so they do not go wandering later. Because wandering's a no-no. Yeah, definitely gonna be rotating so we can... I thought I had more of these little guys on here. No, I had more attempts. Where are my tiniest beads? Alright, let's try this again. That one is really in there. This one needs to go in a little bit further. That gives us different height, which is its own fun little thing. Alright, let's try this again. There's one. Oops. Next. I'll do one of these. One of these ones. We're not doing any of the big ones there, though. Get in my fingers. Right there. I think that's the one in most danger of disappearing places. Alright. Alright, so one of the things I'm noticing, you can actually see that this has already started drying a bit. You can see it where the whip's getting darker already. So this is going to darken up, which will be good for the roses, because they'll stand out more. I love this case. I love this case. I'm sad. Because it's an iPhone. And I do not have an iPhone. I am on a Samsung. And I love this case. Such is life. There we go. That's a good feeling, though. That's a good feeling to really, really like, there's so many things I've made before that I made them, and I wasn't happy with them. But I am in love with this. We're gonna move it to its new home, and then we're gonna make something else. If I had more DS stuff, then I could make a few targeted badge holders for coworkers, like someone would absolutely purchase, like specific people at work. Oh, that's heavy. Oh, there's a gap there. I'm gonna see if I can do a cheeky fill in there. How did it come out? I took a phone call. Give me a second. I'm actually adding a couple finishing touches here around the edge to help fill in some gaps, and it actually makes a really cute little detail. All right. Oh, missed a spot over there. All right. I'm making LV pigtail bows with the rubber LV handbags from Charms Addicts about a month ago. I missed out on the glow in the dark stuff, but I did get me a ton of my squirrels that I have been begging for. So now it's just the wait for them to get here. There we go. So I don't know if you can see, but it's the little poofs around the edges. You were watching my order yesterday. Yeah. So that was the first time I ordered while I was doing something else. I was actually in the middle of dinner. And I had never thought it would be so hard to order and make food at the same time, but dang, yes it was. So yeah, I am really, really happy with this case, and I'm very mad that it's on an iPhone case, because it means I can't decide that I want it for myself, because it won't fit my phone. But that's okay, because I believe I have enough of everything. Okay, I don't have the butterfly. I've got to get another one of the butterflies. But I know where to get more of the keys and where to find more of the lion head door knocker. Which I think this is going to be one of the things, it's like definitely my thing that I do is the door knockers. Why can't I get this stupid rubber down? I made lots of iPhone 12 Pro Max cases when I made mine so I could put it on my phone. See, and that's the danger, right? Because you want to be able to sell stuff, and if you make it for something that you can use, the temptation to keep it for yourself is very, very high. It's one of the reasons why I am working on a rule where for myself, if it is something I want, I support another creator and I purchase from them. So that I am not constantly making stuff and not selling it because I decide I want to keep it for myself. Yeah. Which means if I decide to grow out my hair and need a clip for my hair for work, I cannot buy the clip from myself. I have to find someone else to buy it from. I already know who I buy phone cases from. If you haven't seen Happy Fire phone cases stuff, check it out. I love her work. Love her work. It's so adorable. Yeah, definitely take a look. So she's got 2 pages on TikTok. She's got Happy Fire phone cases and Happy Fire 8. 8 showcases a lot more of her work, whereas phone cases is where she goes live to create her stuff when she's doing her custom orders. So we're gonna move this, and I am gonna make one more item. I think I've got just enough between the peach and purple, maybe, to make one more item. But I gotta be very, very picky because it's not a whole lot left on both of them. Oof. God, I love that. Okay. Not doing the mirror. I want to do something smaller. I've done enough bachelors, I guess. Yeah, we'll do a clip. All right. I hate that it's hard to find black Samsung cases, only sublimations cases. So I'm using TPU cases. I have not had any issues with my silicone breaking or anything. I've watched a few videos where that was a thing that someone dealt with. And one of the things I noticed when I looked was that it hadn't finished curing. So that's one of my things. I'm going to make sure we give it time to cure all the way before we do any moving of anything. We're going to do a jaw clip. Heck, I put that out of my reach. Okay, so we're doing purple and peach. We'll see how I make my phone cases with gems, one gem at a time. If you have time to check out the videos, yeah, I will definitely do that later. Where is my pen? You know what? We'll just notes. All right. So we've got some little beads to use. Oh, that's what I didn't do on my Sailor Moon one. That's fine. We are happy with the Sailor Moon one. I am not going back and adding more shit. Not that it's shit, but I think we're gonna go foodie with this. So I decided to put the donuts, some of my donuts, in with my nature stuff. Those two match. Those two match. No. Got some cute little hearts. Do I have another black bear? I do not have another black bear. I have a white bear. I have a brown bear. But just gonna make reproducing that really hard. We could do a similar... Okay. Those might be one run. That might be a one run case as much as I love it. Not feeling any of the animals there. We're looking for the next piece. Little hearts. We got these hearts. And yeah, we'll do some flowers on this one. Not the roses, though. We're going to break away from the roses. I think I like that one. Maybe not the peach. Okay. The only bear missing is Cocaine Bear. I don't know about that. Let's see. I think we have a yellow vibe going here. So this is one side. We need another 5. 3. That movie was ridiculous. I have not seen it. I don't get out to the movies much. I don't know. Aw, Diane, thank you. Appreciate it. Is that the same? Yeah, that's the same. We're not using that one. We're not putting a rose on it. We are not putting a rose on it. Ooh. Maybe this? I mean, it's a... No. Did these come in yellow? Do I have this in yellow? Peach. Or maybe even one of these. We are desperately searching for the right piece to go in here. That's blue. This one's a bit different. Not a going to the movies kind of person either. Yeah, I don't craft all the time, but I do spend a fair amount of time. I spend a fair amount of time with the chickies. That feels like a lot of sunflower. Can we swing this? Almost, not quite. The only thing I watch on TV is the Golden Girls and Frasier. Frasier was really, really, really good at its time. That is a second one of that. You do not want to double that up on the same side. How did I land on flowers when I was talking about doing food? Golden Girls is great. Golden Girls has always been great. That's white. I don't want to do white. I didn't like that one. I could clearly have a color theme. I'm gonna see if I can replace any of this comfortably with where are you, pink? This is t-shirts, cups, pictures, a calendar, open mitts. Yeah, I'm obsessed. Let's see, this is center. Left, right. Milk. Maybe we need to change this up a little bit. This is center both sides. We're doing bouquets as center both sides. Let's balance out. You're so tiny. Ooh, there's no winning here. Okay. Donut, milk. Right, I wanted to use hearts, didn't I? Let's see what I've got that I like for my hearts for this. I don't really have yellow hearts. I've got one in this one style. Just the one. It's so chunky. Oh, you guys can't even see the selections here. Alright. This is one side. And this will be the other side. We just need one more heart. I wonder if there's any chance that I have enough of the peach to just stick with the peach. Yeah, I'm really feeling yellow here. We're really vibing with the yellow. There's no way that I have enough of this on its own. I think I got mixed up a bit more. Yeah. We'll stick with a similar color. We're gonna bust out the yellow though. So we got mixed up another batch, but we're mixing it with what we already have. Yeah, I'm not sure what the inspiration is behind the idea for yellow for this, but I really like the yellow. Just wish I had more food-related stuff that was yellow. But this is where we're at right now, so we'll deal. Squeeze as much of this out as I can. So right now I am squeezing as much of the remaining peach in my piping bag out. Do you have the pastel candles? Yeah. So my first order has came through. I have not gotten the rest yet. I did not get the pastel candies in my first order. So my first one was a relatively small one. So I got my Sailor Moon charms that I'd been dying for, and I've got my, I got the Diana, Artemis, and Luna set. I got these sparkle hearts, and this flower, the donut, the heart, and the milk all came from them. There's a hand, the bear from earlier. And Sleepy Keroppi and Sleepy Batsmaru, those are two of my favorite little dudes. Oh shit. Oh, these are my work pants. I don't care if they get this stuff all over them. Oh, I guess stick with this idea of hi. I've got one more thing I'm doing. It's 5:08.
After 5.
It's 5:08. Dinner's ready?
No. Cook. Last night of the week.
Do we have the turkey out? I didn't get the turkey out this morning. We're using the ground turkey. Do you not remember? We talked about it. It's fine if not. I think we have a pound in the freezer, Mom. I cannot hear you through the door.
I will just get some hamburger from the store.
Okay, thank you. I will wrap this up. I just... Where did my lid go? I am a literal disaster when it comes to organization right now. Holy crap. I just had that lid. Where'd it go? Did it roll on me somewhere? Oh, God. You received 28 of your... 28? See, my last couple orders... So there's my first order I made. My next two orders have been stuck in Sparks, Nevada for a dang week. Guild Arts, welcome! Where the fuck is that lid? I think this is gonna be a staple with me making this stuff, is the regular meltdowns when I put something down and can't see it right in front of my face. I found it. I've missed you too, Gildy. I am working on a new thing. I don't know if you need a little tray to put them in. Well, that's the thing. I have very limited space that I'm working with you. Here. Here. And I'm still working out how everything goes. So I haven't had an issue with my charms. I've been very good about keeping track of where my charms are. But literally everything else is a constant question on where the hell did I set it. But we found it. We found the lid. Again, I do have a goal. A few goals. I am working towards getting my business up and running. I am working towards having a large enough audience according to TikTok to go live from my computer, because that would be so much easier for me. I put my supplies in organizer cases. I have about 60 keys. Ooh, I do not have the space. I have my tiny little bedroom as my space to work with. So currently my charms and stuff live in the little baggies that live in a larger baggie. I do have a set of organizer drawers on the way. But everything currently lives in bags, inside bags that go inside a larger bag that I will soon need to upgrade because it is not big enough. Camera did the thing again. It's not showing it on my end, so I don't think it's the camera. I think it might be my internet connection. And there's not a whole lot. Like, normally when I stream from PC in the past, I've been hardlined into my modem. I have no way to hardline into the modem here. The modem's upstairs. I am down in what is kind of sort of a basement. Seems fine on this end. Yeah, TikTok seems to have a much more stable connection than my PC. But the thing is with the PC, it requires a much wider bandwidth in order to stream successfully, because it's more information that's being transmitted than you transmit through a mobile recording. Pass that over there. What I haven't lost is my caulking gun. I've been good about not losing my caulking gun. You do your crafting in the basement too? I mean, my room's in the basement, which, you know, I have no issue with that. Is this the white? This is the white. We want to stick with the white. Give me the tip. Snippy snip. You need a poke? I think you need a poke down in there. Use the pokey stick. No, it did not need the poke. I did not grab a wolf. Right. Alright. Finger it is. Finger it is. Just gonna rub this off over here. Oops. Oh. Guess I'd already decided I was replacing that soon anyways. I did do a smart thing. Past couple times when I've started doing my mixes, when I was done squeezing my tubes out of the, through the gun, I forgot I didn't have anything to properly close up the tubes. So I would take the tip from the tube that I had snipped off and I would shove that in there, and that wasn't working too great. So I got some tube sealers. So for Twitch, for TikTok, some tube sealers. We're gonna see how well these work at actually closing stuff up. Jesus. But first, we're gonna pipe a bunch of this stuff out into my little mixing bowl here. Okay, that is good there. Hold, pull. Just takes the pressure off that. Now, is this going to be small tip or large tip is the question. Let's see if this is roughly the right one. I think this is the right one. Alright, that's on. Never are specific when they say just the tip. Small, medium, or large. This is apparently a small tip. We've got this tube sealed really good, which is nice. That means I will be able to reuse it without losing any of the silicone. We're gonna mix with the color that's already in here and see if I like the results before we add any more dye into what's in the bowl here. We're gonna use the existing. This should be very pale, which should complement the yellows very nicely. Or not. This looks like it's going to be too pale. We may not see any of the color once I've got it all mixed. Yeah, that's gonna be way too pale. Maybe I throw a bit of yellow in. Although my little spoon already has... I don't wanna... I don't wanna get the peach into my yellow jar. I only have the one spoon right now. Yellow is not the stronger color of the two. A little mellow yellow. Yes, we're working with a lot of yellow right now. That is the goal. We're doing lots of yellow. I like the yellow. This is way too pale. Way too pale. Yeah, no. Let's see. We can scrape up some more. Have to get a box of plastic spoons so you have a... Yeah. I currently don't have any throwaways, which is the issue here. There's a reason that I have not launched yet, because I am still figuring out what all exactly I need to get. What have I got? What am I missing? So the tornado stuff is all happening out in Oklahoma, Gildy, and Kansas, and, you know, the rest of Tornado Alley, and I no longer live in Tornado Alley. Thing kind of went upside down for me out in Oklahoma, and I am back on the West Coast. I would love to go back. No, I understand and I appreciate the worry. I do appreciate you asking and checking in. And who knows, maybe things will change and I'll be able to move back, but for now, it's just not a feasible thing for me. Now, this is a gel color, I wonder. Maybe just using the Q-tip is easier. Because it loads up pretty well. I'm not looking for, like, a ridiculous amount of color. Although it also sucks up a lot of color, too. So I want a paler peach than last time, but not as pale as we just had, just working with what was left. Oh, shit. Now we're getting messy. Now we're getting messy. We got a lot of mixing to do here. Why is so much of that stuck right there? Alright, I think we have our color here, which is paler than the last batch. But not too dang pale. Alright. I'm gonna need to vacuum tonight, so I need to get this done pretty quick, because I gotta get on to dinner. scrape this all. This is definitely more than I'm gonna need for a haircut. I'm gonna have to retrieve that. That just fell on the floor. Come on. All right. Whew. That was a trick, of which no one on the other end, I think, could see clearly. Okay. Oh, that was my elbow. Alright, and scrape this stuff on down. This should make a really pretty variegation. I don't know how well you can see that on the cameras, but it is there. Squeeze this stuff all down. There we go. I feel like I should possibly have a few more pieces than I have, but we'll work with what we got. All right. Oh no. This here. Just one row. Second row. Wrong tip. Wrong tip. That is way too tiny. Glad I caught that. Got a lot of the darker stuff. I'm trying to get the darker stuff out. Come on. There we go. Look at that ice cream cone right there. Actually. not quite right. If only I had a little cone to put around it. Alright, anyways. Little distraction off on the side there. Alright. Alright. Set that aside. Let's get side A put together. Mother trucker! I'm really good at just running into my shed. Keep doing that. And again. Well, glad I got something fairly large to compared to the space to stick on that. Just boy, have I. There we go. Super bright. Now the trick is to do this other side. Oh boy! So this is the grip from here on out. Got it. It's gonna be fun. Alright, in we go. So far, we're doing alright. Focus. Keep making little cookies. Just making a bunch of little cookies. Okay. There's step 1. Now step 2. Do not mess it up. We're actually gonna switch a couple of these around a bit. We're gonna throw the donut over here. Preferably without screwing up the other side. Donut. Flour. Okay. Sunflower. Other heart. Whew! We did it. That worked out really good. Okay. So, I hate to do the dump off fast, but again, I've been told that I need to go make dinner. I've got messes to clean up. We have my first super cute claw clip done. I don't think this needs anything more. I'll keep it nice and simple. So I'm gonna go put this up. We're gonna log off. Thanks for hanging out. I'll be back next week. The plan is Saturday. I do have a Discord. You can either find that in my panels over on Twitch or in my bio links, my bio card over on TikTok, which is in my profile. Go ahead, take a look through there. I do gotta clean up my bio card a bit. But yeah, take a look. Hop into Discord. I will be keeping updated of when my actual lifetime will be over there for next week. Thanks for hanging out. We'll catch you guys later.